Hey, queens. If your tiaras are on, your cocktails are in hand, and you are here for the season 4 premiere, Assume Your Throne.
This is Stacy from Trashy Divorces, here with Alicia, and we are so excited about season 4 of Queens, but we wanted to have a very serious talk with you about cussing.
Katie and Nathan are going to cuss, y'all.
They're gonna cuss.
And they're going to drink adult beverages.
They're
going to cuss while they're drinking
they're
adult
gonna
beverages.
drink, and they're gonna cuss, and they're gonna talk history.
They're going to talk Queens.
And you're gonna like it.
If you don't think you're going to like it, go ahead and shut it down now. If cussing is a thing you appreciate on a fine podcast, welcome to season 4, Queens.
Put that crown on your head. Put that drink in your hand.
Go.
Cuss,
Do it.
cuss a little. Hit play. Which you've already done.
You don't have to do anything. Congrats on season 4, Katie and Nathan, from your friends at Trashy Divorces.
We heart you.
So much hearting. Enjoy the season, friends.
Hi, this is Katie,
And this is Nathan.
and you're listening to Queen's Podcast, the show about badass women in history. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, Katie. We're on a goof train.
We are. Let's rein it in just a little. Let's definitely keep this momentum, but let's rein it in just a little bit.
Oh, I miss you.
I miss you too, even though we talk just
We
about
talk
every day.
regularly?
But
Yeah.
I still miss you very much. But I'm excited to be back for season 4. Are you excited to be back for season 4?
There's some whores in this house.
There's some holes in this house.
I
So-
think people were waiting for this.
Yes. Yes. So today we are going to talk about Queen Ranavalona. She was the queen of the Amerna people of Madagascar in the 18th century, and she's gone down in history. History has not been kind to her.
Oh, they painted her in a very white Christian way.
Yeah, she is. And I'm going to be very interested once this episode is over to hear from everybody if you think she deserves this title as the Mad Queen, or if it's just history being a bag of dicks to people of color.
Racist bag of dicks.
Racism.
Oh.
But first, Nathan, what is our season 4 premiere cocktail that you came up with?
We are drinking the Madagascar Mule, which is basically like a take on the Moscow Mule. Katie likes ginger beer.
When I read the description of this drink, I was like, oh, I'm not going to like this.
She hates ginger.
Mm-hmm.
She hates beer.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, she should hate ginger beer.
But
But
apparently
she
I
does
don't.
not, apparently. So it's what it is an ounce of whiskey, which is a shot of whiskey, and a little bit of lime juice with some ginger beer, and a touch of Madagascar vanilla.
We'll have a link to the cocktail recipe and that Madagascar vanilla in our show notes. But first, before we kick it off, let's do some shout outs to our Patreon supporters, our Empress and Queen Mother Patreon supporters. All right, so before we get started, let's do some Patreon shout outs. Hoo-dee-hoo! Shout out to our Queen Mother and Empress supporters over on Patreon. We got Charity, Shannon, Tracy, Madison, Lizzie, and Allie.
And Emily and Dina and Jessica and Heather and Allie and Belen and Deetra and Christina and Roxana. And Stephanie. Sorry. I had to do it.
You had to do it. Well, thank you, all of you, for being our supporters. And thanks to all our supporters at every level. You guys are the best. Let's kick off Ranavalona.
Can you say it one more time?
Ranavalona.
I feel like this is one of those drunk tests. where you're
Ranavalona.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, say her name.
By the time we get to the end of the episode, it'll be like, can we say this name? So she was born sometime in the 1770s in a small village in Madagascar. She had a different name at birth, but we're going to call her Ranavalona
It seems easy.
Because it's just easy. Yeah, and also like just for consistency's sake, and that's what she goes down as in history. So Ranavalona was born around 1770-ish or so in Madagascar.
So she wasn't born into like nobility, but to like an obscure peasant family.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy that she ever ended up becoming queen. When she was really young, her dad, who was just like some peasant dude, got wind that the king of Madagascar, there was like a plot on his life. His brothers were like plotting to kill him.
Drama.
So I guess I should clarify. At the time, Madagascar wasn't united under one king. But the biggest tribe was the Merina tribe, and this was their king. And Nathan, do you want to try to say his name?
His name is Andriana Mopoina Marina.
Yeah, Andriana Mopoina Marina. We're calling this motherfucker Andy. There were several plots to kill King Andy, and like whenever Ranavalona was around 5 or 6, her dad gets wind of the assassination attempt and tells King Andy. And he's just so fucking grateful that he makes their family nobility. So sometimes snitches don't get stitches.
No, that's true story. So King Andy adopts Ranavalona. Yeah, I feel like it's drunk toast.
Yeah.
like saying her name, Ranavalona. I said it right.
You said it right, yeah.
So he moves on in and fucking jackpot y'all.
Jackpot. So their whole family moves to like the royal palace, and yeah, the king formally adopts her so that she's now officially royalty. Whenever you guys come of age, we're gonna marry Miss Rana to the king's oldest son, the future king. So jackpot.
Like they do.
Like you do.
Like they do, yeah. That's
get engaged when you're 5. Why not?
Yeah, woo! So we really don't know a lot about her childhood. Let's discuss Madagascar.
Yeah, we know that she grew up like at the palace, but like she's pretty obscure until later on.
Yes. So Madagascar doesn't write things in books. And there's a whole lot that we're going to do in this episode that it's all conjecture. Because they didn't write shit.
A lot of educated guesses.
Yeah. So it's a bunch of tribes. Like they're basically just a bunch of tribes. Emirnia tribe. She was a tribe.
Yeah.
And basically the entire island of Madagascar.
So like the Madagascar, the people of Madagascar are called Madagasy. So the Madagasy people.
Sorry.
I knew you were gonna laugh. I knew you were gonna laugh.
I'm Madagasy.
Oh, I'm Madagasy. Madagascar was positioned perfectly for it sucks, but the slave trade.
Ew.
I know.
Ew.
I know. So the Europeans would come in and like set up shop in Madagascar and like then go to mainland Africa and get their slaves, and then, or it also sucks, the Madagasy people were very instrumental in the slave trade. They would like go get the slaves for the Europeans, bring them back.
I'm making a very negative face throughout Katie's explanation.
Right. No, it's well, but history sucks. History is a bag of dicks. We know.
Gross.
Yes. But like as the Amerna tribe keeps growing and growing, they start making more and more treaties with the European, most specifically the French and English. And the European people would give them money and guns. It was just an interesting relationship that they had with them at this time.
Yeah, this is not a fine time to be in Madagascar.
No, it's not a fun and sexy time.
So at some point, Miss Rana and the Prince Radama were married. So this is important because they did not like each other
No.
at all.
Mm-mm. They were not.
This was not a match made in heaven.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
This was not like our, we've had one or two episodes where they're like, oh, they're kind of in love and this is great. This is not one of them.
Nope. Sometimes these arranged marriages work out and everyone's happy, and sometimes they do not. And this is one of the.
This is not one of them.
Radama had 12 wives, so that was like I couldn't find if that was like a cultural thing for all nobility or just like the king. That was a thing in their culture, is that the king definitely had multiple wives. Miss Rana is the first wife, which means she's the one that goes with him to like state events, and is the one that if they were to have any sons, her sons would become king and stuff like that.
So she's basically like the reality star of it. It's like,
yes,
Rana and Randama.
Yeah, she
plus 12.
She is queen plus 12. It's like sister wives. Exactly. They never had any children or anything because they did not like each other, as we've discussed. And it's not known. It's kind of suggested that they never even slept together. Like, maybe.
I mean, why would you fuck a dude that you hated?
Well, like, a lot of women we've talked about have had to do that, but
fuck dudes that they hated.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's true. It's true. It's possible that they probably slept together on like their wedding night, but like that was probably it. So she never had any children from him.
So one of the ways they were different is that Radama was like super progressive.
Mm-hmm.
So he really liked working with the Europeans, and, he ordered the first printing press, and he was like arranging for his brothers to go and, get educated in France. Like, he's trying to
be more modern, bring them
get with the times.
Yeah,
get with the
exactly,
times.
Exactly.
So Ranavalona, I said it right?
You said it right, yeah.
She was a little more traditional. Like, education wasn't necessarily her number one plus. She was more like, no thanks. I would rather make cocktails and drink.
You're absolutely right. Well, both her and Radama probably had serious drinking problems, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
They did.
Too.
So we will. So she was like, if you watch Game of Thrones, she's into the old gods. She's into.
That's a very good way to put it. She is
old way of life.
Yes. And
very nicely, less murdery.
Yeah, it's a less murdery way to put it. She was really popular amongst like the traditionalists because of this, because she basically was like, we don't need the Westerners coming in here telling us how to live our lives. And
very, very voodoo-like.
Yeah, their religion, because it's not dissimilar to voodoo, but because we don't know, like the people of Madagascar at this time didn't have like a formal written language. So there's so much that we don't know. But what I could gather about their religion, like the old gods, is it's not dissimilar to voodoo, in that I'm sure that the Christians at the time would have called it like paganism. But so she was not into the English and the French coming in.
She's a witch.
Exactly. She was not into their new religions, and she was very skeptical of white people, which, I mean, she's not wrong.
Hashtag same.
So she wasn't into them coming in and setting up churches and schools, but she couldn't do anything about it because the king and the prince were. So
in 1810, King Andy dies and Radama becomes king.
Mm-hmm.
So her man is now like leader of the tribes. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And it was a fucking bloodbath, except it wasn't cool.
That was not cool. The bloodbath was not cool.
That is not kosher.
No, it's not. So our girl is officially queen now.
Work all of the messages.
And they all lived happily ever after.
Except not. It was so bad.
It was
so bad.
It reminded me of, remember with Roxalina's story, how it wasn't just like the oldest son becomes king and we all move on with our lives. It was whoever became king then had to like kill all of the rival families. So they participated in that kind of transfer of power.
Genocide?
Kind of like kill all my relatives now.
Familicide? That's a word, right?
Familicide? I know patricide, which means like killing your father or brother.
Familicide?
Let us know the term
how you murder your family.
Yeah. Of some of those people that were killed were some of Ranavalona's relatives. I wish that I could have found more information about this because I couldn't tell who in her family was all killed.
She had to have had brothers.
That's my guess, yeah. Like, she's not blood related. They're not blood related, but then it's like, I guess the adoption, it's kind of like what we talked about, like in the Roman society in the Agrippina episodes, how adoption was like very like, no, you are now part of this family. So their family was adopted in. And though, yeah, like you said, though there's no, I didn't read any mention of her having brothers. If she had, they definitely would have been killed in this. So yeah, that's my educated guess. So that's Queen's podcast official educated guess is that she had brothers that were killed in this massacre. But who knows? Maybe it was also like her father and her mother, and who knows? We just know she had relatives. Let's think about that for a minute though. You're thinking like, I'm first wife and we're not actually blood related to the crown. I'm sure I can get my family, like I can save them. And she couldn't. We don't know a whole lot about how she personally felt about a lot of things in her life because she never wrote anything down. But we know that this fucking hit her hard. You know,
as it should.
As it would when your family is murdered. Yes.
As murdering your family should.
All right. Ramada's king now. She's queen. She hated him before. She hates him more now.
You're all caught up.
And that's the show. Bye.
Good night. Thank you. Love ya. And she was like really not. She was uneventful.
Yeah.
A good consort.
Well, she wasn't a bad consort. Just women weren't expected to do anything, and so she didn't. Like, she didn't have any part in running the government. So, like, nothing that she really did as queen consort is documented, but what is documented is that she loved rum.
Okay.
Like, all right, girl, I can get behind this. Under Radama's reign, a lot of English missionaries popped up. And while she had no interest in changing religion, she did make friends with some of the missionaries. There was one missionary dude that got to know her really well because, like, I guess she would be bored at the palace. So her and her ladies in waiting and some of the other wives would go over to this one dude's house and drink rum and just like shoot the shit with the missionaries.
I mean, that sounds like a good time to me.
Hi. What else are you gonna do? Yeah, sounds great.
Don't start no shit. There won't be no shit.
Exactly. She also dabbled in fashion a little bit. She
fashion.
Turn to the left. Fashion.
Turn to the left. Sorry. We did a David Bowie.
Yeah, you couldn't see it, but we were voguing. But yeah, she is noted that she picked up like French style dress from some of the French colonists that were there. So up to this point, I can totally day drinking, and fancy dresses. Yes.
Sounds like a party.
Sounds great. Yes.
Sign me up.
So far, we have a lot of common interests.
Where is the Evites? So they don't have any kids, don't have any shit. Like, they are definitely not a match made in heaven.
No.
And somehow, with all of those wives, he didn't end up with the big boy. Like, how do you have all these women in your life and you don't have a child that's a baby boy that inherits the throne? I don't know. Very Henry VIII.
Yes, and also, there's this one story that I don't know that I subscribe to. I read this book to research for this episode called The Female Caligula, and I'll link to it in the show notes. But they suggest that one of his wives did have son that maybe Miss Rana had killed.
Yeah, I wanted to read that book. But
It was,
like,
I mean,
also seems like a racist bag of dicks.
it's not a book that I'm going to be like singing the praises of, but there's just not a whole lot out there to read about her. Radama, so he was king for 18 years, and in that time, he really did his best to westernize Madagascar. And so, of course, there's this growing faction of the people in Madagascar who want traditional values. They want to make Madagascar great again. This faction of people in Madagascar, they, the traditionalists, they didn't want to trade with France. They didn't want the English coming over teaching them how to fucking read and shit. Like, their priorities were preserving their culture.
Yes, they were not progressive.
No. So fast forward a little bit. Like you said, Ramada and Ranavalona didn't have any children because they hated each other. But she wasn't lonely. She had a lover, a high-ranking military dude named Andrea Mahaja. So yeah, she had someone to keep her warm at night.
She wasn't lonely.
She was not lonely.
She got that D.
She got some D. Yeah. So good for her.
Let's fast forward a little bit. So it's 1828-ish, and Radama is like super sick and super drunk.
Yes.
He's also wasted.
Sick and drunk.
He's had a lot of rum. And his health is like declining because ye old liver, it's not working right. I'm sure
the alcohol's not helping his whatever his pre-existing condition was.
Yes. So there are two schools of thought on what he was like sick with. One was syphilis.
Syphilis.
It's your fucking itch in your crotchy. I don't know.
That is the syphilis is what I subscribe to. But the second school of thought is that Ranavalona was slowly poisoning him to death. I don't buy that because they were never together. They were never close. I'm sure everyone knew that they didn't sleep together. So wouldn't it have been really suspicious if she was like, why would she be around his food? Why would she be around his drinks? Like, wouldn't it have been really suspicious? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree.
I just think people would be like, what? You're not planning to eat with him. Why are you serving him his food? That's so.
Anyway. Ramada is like super fucking dramatic. He ends up slitting his own throat, guys. He slits his own throat like.
Like, isn't there a more chill way to kill yourself?
I thought I was a drama queen.
Well, you are.
I love it.
That's another thing, though, that makes me believe the syphilis theory is
it's crazy.
Yeah, a side effect of syphilis is madness, and you have to be pretty out of your mind, out of your regular mind to slit your own throat. So anyway, he's dead, and now our story can really take off.
So The heir that Radama had appointed was his nephew. And so nephew was like super fucking smart. And nephew had been like educated in Europe and like super progressive.
He was very pro-Europe, building that relationship and everything.
So Miss Rana knew that if this should happen, she'd likely be like on the chopping block because your head
Yeah.
is gonna get chopped
Well,
off.
because that's what happened to her family
Yeah.
like 18 years ago.
Tradition.
Tradition goes that you get killed
Yep.
now. Yeah.
Yep, you did now. So when Radama died, his ministers were actually keeping it, hush hush until
Secret.
they
I
could
got a secret.
crown the heir. So Rana's boo thing, Andy, because we're not
Another
gonna say his
Andy.
full name.
Andrea Mahaja.
Wow, Katie, can you say that one more time?
Andrea Mahaja. I know.
I'm so impressed.
I'm so smart. I'm so good at words.
Wait, weirdo. You just like, I'm cockstruck. Like, you literally were like, Adrahamaja.
Yeah.
Like,
What
wow.
can I say?
Wow.
I'm just really smart. I don't know. So her lover, he tells her, like, hey, your husband is dead and we need to get you to safety.
Mhm.
Thank God.
Yeah, like, don't die tonight.
Yeah. Most of the military leaders were actually conservative. Like, they were traditionalists like her. So they were like, if we put her as queen instead of the nephew, it's going to benefit us. So the military hides Rana
Mhm.
and a couple of her ladies in waiting and a couple of the other wives, which I thought was interesting. We don't know her relationship with the other wives, but it must have been somewhat friendly if she's going to be like, come hide with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So-
having the military on your side is kind of cool.
Yes, it helps.
Super cash
Because
money.
they're the one with all the guns.
Yay!
I don't know if you know this about the military.
Super cash money. There really never at this point been a female ruler. It's never in the Madagascar tradition. There's never been like a female leader. So this was like huge.
It was huge. And it's kind of cool that like it was not a big deal. Like you know what I mean? Like whenever the military was deciding she was the candidate that they wanted, it doesn't appear that anyone was ever like, but vagina.
But boo, vagina.
It was just always kind of like, they're like, well, she matches our values, so it's fine. Cool, I guess. Her coup took about 2 weeks. Radama died on July 27th, and Ranavalona was officially declared herself queen on August 11th. This army that was behind her that was growing like every day was like, if anybody wanted to dispute her claim, she would be like, would you like to speak to the army? Like if someone was like, why do you think you have the right to rule? She was like, why don't you ask these people? Why don't you ask all the people with the guns?
I got guns.
Yeah. Have you met my army?
She's right.
So at her coronation, she wore this gorgeous French gown, as we know that she liked, that was bright red and gold. And it was like the people in Madagascar, like the more common folk that didn't like live in palaces and stuff, had never seen someone dressed so like in such like
Extravaganza.
Yes. Like they had never seen someone dressed like this before. She knew how to present herself. Yeah, is what I'm getting at.
She bring it to you every ball.
She knew how to dress to impress.
Yes. That is an understatement.
It's said that instead of like, European tradition at your coronation, you get anointed with holy water. And it's said that instead she was anointed with the blood of a cow. However, this has been disputed because it's like, again, the only written history we have is from what Europeans about this. So it's possible that they were just trying to paint them primitive. You know what I mean?
Racist.
Yes. Racism. Yes.
That's exactly what's happening here.
So there's only like 2 or 3 times in her life that she spoke publicly. And one of these times was at her coronation. And Nathan, I would really love it if you would do a dramatic reading of her speech at the coronation.
Okay, sorry. Gotta get the vocal cords going. So, never say. Okay, she said never say, but I feel like I need to say never say. Yeah.
Okay.
Choices.
Okay.
Choices.
Okay. Choices.
Never say. She is only a feeble and ignorant woman. How can she rule such a vast empire? I will rule here to the good fortune of my people and the glory of my name. I will worship no gods, but those of my ancestors. The ocean shall be my boundary of my realm, and I will not cede the thickness of my own realm. God. Oh my God. So, but first order of business. Murder!
Yay! Right? She orders everyone thought to be a threat to her rule, so like all of the people like in the line of succession, to be killed. So her nephew and everyone in his immediate family were starved to death because it was frowned on to spill the blood of royalty. So I would be like, then fucking strangle me. Don't starve me to death.
I think we covered that in the Roxalena episode.
Was it the Roxalena episode or was it the Empress Wu?
Ooh.
Both of them had kind of similar, but either way, yeah. Like I think we've definitely touched on this before that it was thought.
Don't kill baby kings.
Don't spill their blood. So find like a bloodless way.
So just
to kill
strangle them. Yay.
Well, that's better than being starved to death. I had to Google it. Being starved to death takes anywhere from 15 to 22 days. Just strangle me. Fine.
At that point.
Anyway, at first I was a little surprised because of how badly this tradition affected her when she was younger. I thought maybe she would skip it, but no, absolutely not.
Nope.
Next up, she gives herself the title Ranavalona, like that's her ruling name, because she did have a different name beforehand. Ranavalona translates to mean the forgotten one or the one that was put aside.
She's so emo.
I know.
So
but
emo.
also it kind of made me go, oh, she wasn't her husband never paid attention to her. I'm kind of sad.
She's so emo.
But it's very emo. It's very emo.
So then, unpredictably, she ends up breaking the Amina treaties and, fucks that relationship up with the French and the English. So this was a bit of a hit for the economy at the time because England was the one that was, giving them money and, their
to have their slave trade businesses or whatever.
This is so problematic.
There's so much problematic that we're going to get to.
Yeah, it gets ugly. So she's set on making she's gonna be self-sufficient. She's gonna make her country great.
Madagascar
again.
For Madagascar, make Madagascar great again. Yeah.
She's mama.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Soon after telling Europe that she was breaking up with them, there's this scrimmage where these French soldiers are well, no, we're just going to take you over then. And she annihilates the attack. And it was actually pretty clever how they did it. They had a big, powerful fortress set up. It was off of the coast. So they made it look like they weren't expecting the French to show up.
Casse.
Oué les soldiers. And so they're thinking the French got lazy because they're like, oh, these are just these primitive people that we're not going to have any problem taking over. But then when they finally like got within cannon shot, the Madagascar people were like, haha, JK, we're here, we're ready. And they annihilated this small French army that they sent. Miss Rana like told them to take the heads of the French soldiers that they were able to go out and get and put them on spikes and put it on the coast. So there was 20.
Like you do.
And so there was 20 heads on spikes on the coast off of Madagascar. And this was the first time that the Europeans are writing home being like, this woman is mad. It's a mad queen. She's crazy. But
how many men have done
right?
that?
That's like, I was just sort of like, I mean, modern day, you'd be like, well, that's a little dramatic. But back then,
that's what you did.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit sexism to be like, oh, I can't believe what a crazy person. And it's like, kings did shit like that just as brutal all the time, you know?
I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, no, it's like she's a woman, she's black, and she has so many strikes against her in terms of history.
Yeah.
You know, like they're gonna paint her out to be the bad guy. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's still racism. She's still a woman of color.
She's a woman,
and she has a vagina.
and she's not white,
exactly.
And she's not Christian. She's not a Christian.
Exactly. Nathan, what was her next move?
To have babies on babies.
Well, just one.
Bitch. So after about a year after her coronation, she had a baby boy. Who's the baby daddy?
The biological father was almost definitely Andrea Mahaja, her lover. But officially, she was like, oh no, my dead husband, Radama, is the father, of course.
She didn't want no drama.
The baby was born 11 months after Radama died. So obviously, he's not the father. But everybody in Madagascar just kind of went, yeah, okay.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
That's an interesting plot twist. Why don't we take a break real quick, refill our drinks, and we'll be right back. All right, 2020, y'all. I'm not even going to pretend this has been an easy year for anyone. And right now, you might find yourself really wanting to have someone to talk to. Nathan and I are both huge proponents of therapy. But because 2020, you're not really trying to leave the house and go sit in a waiting room. Well, enter BetterHelp. BetterHelp isn't a self-help app, and it's not a crisis line. It's an app that sets you up with a real-life licensed therapist. And do you know what my favorite part is? They have so many therapists. What I mean, like for instance, I don't think it's any secret to our listeners that I suffer from chronic insomnia. Not long ago, I was going to a traditional therapist, and she asked me if I had tried drinking sleepy time tea. What? No, I need someone who specializes in this. I don't know about you guys, but here in Austin, there are a lot more people looking for a therapist than there are practicing therapists. It might be another 4 months until I get into someone's office. BetterHelp is going to set you up with somebody that you can talk to within 24 hours. Hey, and if you don't like that therapist, you can discreetly request a new one. No big deal. You can just switch. And it's also a lot more affordable than traditional therapy too. If you need someone to talk to, why not give it a try? As a listener, you'll get a 10% discount off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/queenspod. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/queenspod. Join the over 1 million people taking advantage of this awesome service. BetterHelp.com/queenspod. Cheers, bitches. Okay, so we're back. You got your drink refilled, Nathan?
Got my drink.
Not my drink and my two-step. My drink and my two-step.
It's on.
It's on. As far as ruling goes, Rana really adopted the tradition, like we've already said, she was leaning in really hard to traditional views and ways of running things. And the tradition was to have the richest families in the country act as your advisor. That's nothing new here. We see this in all different countries, all different administrations and stuff like that.
But what's a little bit different is that she would usually marry her top advisor or prime minister and make them like her consort. So that's
a little different.
Little change.
She never had any more children after her son, who goes on to be Radama II. So
the Ramada.
Yeah, the Ramada in the second. So it makes me, I don't think these were sexual relationships. I think she just had to like make them her consort and marry them so that she had that, they had that status. Another old tradition that she brought back is icky, trial by ordeal. And this, we know for sure she did this, whereas a lot of other things we're going to talk about her may be exaggerated, but we do know that she brought this back, which does kind of give me pause about her thinking.
Yeah, it's a little.
So trial by ordeal, I can't remember what episode we've talked about trial by ordeal in before, but it was a very like medieval practice.
Was it Isabella of France or something? I feel like it was something
I'm
like that.
I'm not totally sure, but it was like...
Was it Olga?
No, I don't think it was Olga. Hey, let us know in the comments.
Death.
Trial by ordeal was basically like if someone is accused of being a witch, throw them in the water. If they sink, they were a witch. If they don't sink, then they're innocent.
Which I mean, basically, if you boil it down, you're dead either way. Like, don't get tried.
It's nobody really in the 18th century was doing this anymore, or the 19th century at this point. No one was doing this anymore. This was viewed as very old-minded. She brought it back, but she put like a regional twist on it, I guess.
She put a 19th century twist on murder.
So it's called the Tanzania ordeal. And the Tanzania was like this plant that had a poisonous nut.
Sounds like my middle name.
Poisonous
nut. Oh my god. That is our fucking tagline.
Nathan's got a poisonous nut. But so they would make...
Murder is not funny.
This is not funny, but poisonous nut. It's a testicle funny. Joke, in case you didn't get it. We're talking about testicles.
Oh my god.
There's some holes in this house. Anyway, so like you would eat the nut or the oil from the nut. Nathan, could you
Sorry,
please
not be 12 years old. I am immature as fuck. So he put
they put the nut in their mouth, and then the oil dripped down.
They choked.
Yeah.
and they died.
No, so they would take the oil from the plant. How about I say that? They would take the oil, and which is what the poison was in, and then make you eat 3 raw chicken skins. Yes. You can't see the face Nathan is making, but it's appropriate.
What?
And so then if you then vomited up all 3 chicken skins, you were considered innocent. No. If you vomited up all 3 chicken skins, you were considered innocent. If the poison killed you, you were guilty.
Congratulations.
Any other outcome besides you vomit? I don't know. Like, if you vomited up 2 skins, were they like, close enough? I don't know the nuances.
You pass.
Close enough.
Yeah. I know. It's kind of like, well, she's kind of a not. I would barf up all of the chicken skins and then be like, she's a witch.
Well, no, if you barfed them all up, you weren't a witch. So congrats.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
natural. Because why wouldn't you vomit up
Right.
chicken skins? Anyway, guys.
The Tanzania ordeal got out of hand. And as soon it was like neighbor accusing neighbor, like the people of like the nobility class really weren't at risk. It was more people in the peasant class like accusing each other.
I mean, it's like those Salem witch trials. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like basically
it's
the
very
same sort
similar
of thing.
to that. Between 1828, the year that like she took office, and 1838, roughly 3,000 people died each year from the Tangina ordeal. So that's what, like 30,000 people in 10 years dying from this?
Slightly problematic.
That's an understatement. In her reign, the Marina tribe saw a huge drop in population. And it has a
Because you killed 30,000
because 30,000 people died in 10 years from not throwing up chicken skins or whatever.
Yeah, but at first, her reign was like kind of normal.
Albeit more traditional leaning than the last two rulers.
Yeah, she was definitely a mama, like make Madagascar
Yes.
great again. She didn't make any friendships, and she didn't really like try to reach out to
No, she was very
Europeans,
much
which is-
into isolationism. Like, but she was like, no, Madagascar for Madagascar, Madagascar first, make Madagascar great again. At first, she, yeah, like you said, she like canceled their treaties with the Europeans. But there were still white people on the island, and her base, like the really, really traditionalist people, were like, well, this isn't enough. There's still British people here. And so the book I read, The Female Caligula, which we referenced earlier, said that Rana had a thirst for blood as soon as she had her first husband's family killed. But I don't know if I really subscribe to that. I think she had planned to be fierce, but I don't think she had necessarily planned to become this absolute murderess that she's gone down in history.
power.
And I think it comes from the pushback from her base. I think she definitely did things that aren't very cash money.
Well, questionable. Yeah.
But I think she didn't necessarily become queen and be like, I'm going to become this tyrant. But I think the pushback from the traditionalists that were like, no, you said you were going to represent us, so you need to get all,
Us.
you need to do exactly what we say, just led to her being more harsh than she meant to be. That's my, I don't know. I always try to find the good in all the queens we cover. So,
but I agree with that, and that I don't think that she intended to be painted this way, and I don't think that she needs to be painted this way. Like, honestly, the fact, like, when I was researching her, I was basically like, wow, history is a racist bag.
They didn't have newspapers. Madagascar didn't have newspapers. They didn't have journals. She wasn't keeping a journal. None of her ministers were keeping a journal. So
they weren't educated.
Well, their education had different priorities. So everything we're reading about her is from the butthurt Europeans who've been kicked out. So she goes on to ban Christianity. Getting baptized becomes a federal offense.
Don't fucking do this
shit.
Don't
get dunked in water. Problems.
So don't get baptized. And as far as I can tell, at first I thought it was like, you're a foreigner and you're a Christian. As long as you're like not pushing that on me, then we're cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, as long as you're not pushing your beliefs on me, then we're fine. Except if you're Madagascar.
But if you're from Madagascar and you convert to Christianity, there were going to be like problems for you. Involving
chicken skins.
If if you're a Christian in Madagascar, if you're a foreigner at first, if you're a foreigner and you're a Christian in Madagascar, it's fine. But if you're not a foreigner, if you are from Madagascar, like if you were born there and you've become a Christian, you're going to have a bad time. So back to her personal life. Baby daddy Boo Thing is sleeping around. I'm not sure if Rana knows this, but her other ministers know it.
I think she knows it.
They're just kind of like, this guy's getting too big for his britches. And if he wasn't in the picture, perhaps one of us could become the new consort. There were these two brothers that were very conservative military generals, and they come over one night with a bottle of rum. And we all know she loves her rum. And they get her shit-faced.
Sounds like a party.
So far, so good. But then they like tell her, like, baby daddy is running around. Baby daddy is like disgracing you. You need to sign his death warrant. And apparently she did.
Oh no. Problematic.
If she regretted it the next day or not, again, she didn't keep a journal. We don't know, but we know that she did sign his death warrant.
She has some big pussy energy.
Oh yeah. She has definitely got some big pussy energy. 100%.
So enter this guy named Rainer Harrow.
Yeah.
I said that right? Okay. So Rainer Harrow.
Let's just call him Rain.
He's just basically he's one of the dudes that got her drunk. Mm-hmm. He got her drunk on some rum, and they had a party.
And he was like, "Break up with your ex and be with me." And she was like,
and she's like,
"Okay,
thanks."
The new man that we're just gonna call Rain, because he's got a long name that we're gonna mess up very badly. They marry in 1833, and they're married for the next 20 years. They seem to basically just have like a really healthy working relationship. But again, I don't think it was romantic in nature in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. No, it was political. Absolutely.
And he was
political.
really instrumental in the conservative laws and regulations.
Yeah. She made him like prime minister, and like basically just made him like a big political position, which is huge. So let's talk about the people of Madagascar, the Madagassis. So their life under her reign was
it wasn't great. They were not having a good time. Miss Rana reinstated this method of forced labor on her citizens that actually had a big part to do in the population drop. I'm not going to try to say the Madagascar word for what this is called, because I'm going to pronounce it wrong. But basically it is, if you are too poor to pay the taxes that she thinks you need to pay, you can do forced labor and then be opted out of your taxes.
Sounds like slavery.
Yes, Nathan. Yes. Because the thing is, I don't know about you, but I pay taxes out of every single paycheck.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not like it's one and done. Like, oh, I just can't pay taxes this year, so I'll do forced labor. You're going to be doing this for the rest of your life.
Like, this is not cool.
So I have read some people that were like, oh, isn't this awesome that she provided this option to people that couldn't pay taxes? And then some people that are, I know. My view is that it's a vicious cycle that you're never going to get out of. There was never a lack of work for them to do, because Rana.
Oh, absolutely.
Rana was like, make Madagascar great again. So she was like building temples. She was building palaces. So there's this story that she wanted to go buffalo hunting. And, as one does in midlife, because if her recorded birth can be believed, she was almost 50 when she took the throne.
It's her midlife crisis that she wants to hunt
She's got
buffalo.
a midlife crisis and she wants to kill some buffalo. Yeah, as one does. Exactly. Precisely. So, her enslaved citizens are now meant to build this buffalo hunting road, basically. It was like in a really dangerous part of the country, in the jungle, you know. So she has her people that are paying off their taxes with slavery go out to build this road, and the closest village is 6 miles away. These people don't have horses, they don't have donkeys, so they're walking there. They can't bring food or water with them, so they're
No donkeys.
they have no.
No asses.
They just
no
got their
asses.
little feetsies. They got their foots.
No.
And so they're just walking there and then walking back. No breaks, no food, no water provided. And so a couple of 100 people died from starvation alone trying to build this. Like, the story goes that the people that did survive, like, would later tell a story that they're walking to their work site and the road is just littered with dead bodies of people that died from exhaustion or starvation or malnutrition or whatever. And so that's
Make Madagascar great again.
problematic.
So, as we stated earlier, being in the military was like...
More dangerous now, though.
So, previously, they had relied on their allies, which were the French, for, like, you know, modern weaponry and, like, hey, ye old dusty cannon was brought to you by
La France.
So, now they had ye old dusty France. Cannons.
Right? They had their old weapons. They didn't have the new ones. Yeah. So there is a story from early in her reign that she suffered a fever and almost died. And then when she woke up, she like had the madness.
Very Caligula.
Exactly. And people call her the female Caligula, or that's what they were calling her in like England and France at the time. I at first was ready to completely write this theory off just based on that. But in one of my very favorite podcasts, Noble Blood, they talk about it. And that's such a well-researched podcast that I'm like, okay, maybe it did happen. But then after, I don't know, some people say it happened, some people say it didn't. But it's just an interesting tidbit that would tie... Because think about Caligula and Henry VIII. Both of them had like illnesses that supposedly whenever they recovered from made them mad, made them the tyrants that they've gone down in history as being. So just something to think about.
So population is dropping.
Yeah.
Because she's basically
Dropping like
murdering
a tide.
everyone.
Dropping like a tide.
So forced labor death camps. Yay! Yeah. Basically what she's doing. And there's like military deaths. France is like still interested in like sneaking into Madagascar and like giving them guns and shit.
We just have no way of knowing how the Madagascar population actually felt about Ranavalona. Because like we said, like they didn't have newspapers. People didn't keep journals. They had a written language, but really until her son took over, it wasn't widely used. So we don't know if people felt like she was a tyrant or if people felt like it was the same old, same old. It's very frustrating as someone trying to research this time. Sadly, during her reign, we do know that many citizens took it upon themselves to act violently to Christians or Europeans living in Madagascar. It was a very xenophobic time.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you're a xenophobe, sounds like this is your fucking place. Like, ugh, it's not great. So let's talk about her relationship with Christians, because it's not great.
It's probably what she's most famous for. Content warning. I am gonna put. I think I'm gonna put a timestamp in the show notes on our website. So if you, I don't know, trigger warning for torture. We're gonna actually try to keep this as light and fluffy and funny as possible, but also it is torture. So
It's not funny.
Why don't you take this next part, Nathan?
How do I introduce it?
Just say just how it's written.
I miss you. just how I put it in the fucking notes. So back when Radama was still alive, he had invited the Christians to come and set up a school in Madagascar.
Madagascar.
Up through Madagascar.
The people are Madagascar, but the land is Madagascar.
We're gonna fight about this for years and years. So they were fighting amongst themselves.
Yes.
And I think they were mainly teaching like construction or like
And the school they
blacksmith
set up,
and-
yeah. So the English came to
Yeah.
Madagascar and set up a school.
And so they're basically just fighting like, you should not put iron in these nails because I don't know, I'm a Christian. Like that's basically what they were fighting about. So it did a lot for their community, but they were also teaching Christianity.
They're like, let me teach you how to read. I'll teach you to read by using this book I've found called the Bible.
Oh my god, I need Katie to do that every day. The last person to teach me Christianity would be Katie.
You know what? Though I don't subscribe to any religion, I do find the history of the Bible very interesting. So I might.
Carry on, peasants.
Carry on, peasants. So the Christians were there, or the English people were there that set up the school in Madagascar, and they were teaching them how to read, and they were teaching them to read from the Bible, like you said, but they were also teaching them basic skills, like maybe this is how you be a blacksmith, maybe this is how you be a bricklayer, stuff like that, to also give them jobs. So all in all, that was probably a good thing, but because they were also teaching Christianity, Rana's base was like, nope, whole bunch of nope.
It's the devil's work.
The devil's work.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah. So what started as a coldness from Ranavalona towards the Christians grew into war, basically. Honestly, in my opinion, I feel like she didn't really care that the Christians were there, but again, just like the pushback from her traditional base drove her to do, because if she cared, she would have done this from the get-go, but her persecution of the Christians was like 10 years into her reign, What do you think?
It's very Olga of Kiev. Like, I just want her to send out pigeons and burn everybody to the ground. Like, let's be real. Don't ask Auntie Nathan. He will tell you to burn it all down.
Right. Like we've already said, at first, foreign Christians could keep their religion just so long as they didn't push their religion on the people of Madagascar. Well, the problem is a lot of the Madagascar people had already converted. And and also taught them skills and like built a kind of like what's the word I'm looking for?
A gassy society? Because they're Madagascar. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say more of like a trust. Like they now like trust the
she's under she's under an LLC now.
We're like just you know what I mean.
Yes, I do.
So a bunch of people from Madagascar had already converted, so now they're being told that them being Christian is against the law. And the funny thing with religion is people are pretty dead set on keeping a religion once they've decided they're that religion. So,
how tragic.
Right. Why don't you take this next section?
So Rana sent some diplomats to England to meet with.
Oh no, Boo! You skipped way ahead.
Oh wow!
So I was just at the section that starts with, like we've already said. At first, foreign Christians could keep their religion. So the next one is, remember the people of the old religion were her base.
Got it. So remember, the people of the older religion were basically her base.
Yeah.
Like it's like MAGA country. And they are the reason she is where she is.
Exactly.
So she needs to like keep them happy. She needs to, be their biggest cheerleader because they might have her killed. And it's in favor of somebody more brutal than her. I
think that's an important thing we should keep in mind in this culture where they're going to like kill leaders that they don't necessarily agree with. We should keep that in mind in her story.
Yeah, absolutely. So her methods of weeding out the so-called Christians were basically just So her methods
of weeding out the Christians were fucking harsh, but if she didn't do it, her base might, have her starved to death. Nathan, are you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Let's just skip to the next section. That was like what you were about to say, Rana. So why don't you take that one?
I'm skipping. My shit is skipping. It's giving me like like that. Okay. So do I start with the Rana send some diplomats? Yeah. Okay. So Rana sent some diplomats to England to meet with Queen Vicky at the same time.
Queen Victoria, maybe you've heard of her.
And they are super civilized. And they're trying to downplay the stories coming out of, the old Madagascar. But they slide into her DMs and they're like, "You're not welcome."
Yeah, their whole trip was basically to be like, we appreciate your interest in Madagascar, but please don't come here.
Yeah, they basically just like, okay, see you later.
Bye.
So they have this like very discreet message that's not so discreet that says, I think the whole government wanted to make sure not a single word got out about the real atrocities that were going to.
Yeah.
And it's such a bitch that this happened.
It's such a shame that we don't have
like
documents from Madagascar about it.
Because fuck, they didn't write. They didn't write, right?
They didn't write, right?
Right.
So back home, things are getting worse for the Christians. Why the English missionaries stayed, I will never be able to wrap my head around, which also reminds me that I'm a coward because I feel like I don't have anything in my life that I have a conviction around like that. Like if someone was like, you're a Christian, you're going to cut your head off, I'd be like, nope. I'm like, I don't know. I'd be like, yep, your old religion. Yes, that's what I'm into. Like, I would never be a martyr is what I'm getting at.
No, you absolutely be like, we're into the old gods now. Cool.
I love the old
My name
gods.
is Katie. I love the old gods.
I love the retro feel.
Party on.
Party on, old gods. In 1838, so about 10 years into her reign, was the year that the massacres really came to a head. That year alone, there was 100,000 deaths alone by trial by ordeal.
It's like basically Rona times 2.
That's a third of their population.
Holy shit.
Right?
Okay, let's take a moment.
Did you say what the fuck?
Silence.
Because that would be the appropriate response. Dear listeners, did you say
Holy
what the fuck?
shit.
Yeah. One reported way that the Christians were executed was like they were tied to ropes. This is the most popular way. They were tied to ropes and like thrown off a cliff. And this was like in view of Rana's palace. So they'd be thrown off these cliffs, and then come to the end of the rope and kind of like bounce back. And then like maybe pulled back up and then thrown off again. And just like, it was just like a game of like, haha, when are we actually going to kill you? Until they finally, like cut the rope and they died.
Gross.
On that cliff though, now in Madagascar, this really like over the top, very beautiful church is built.
Of course. They're like, give your money to Jesus.
Right.
Oh.
For the sake of brevity and because it's just gross, let's just
skim over the killing of Christians.
Let's just give like a list of some of the ways the Christians were killed without diving into it too much.
Surprise, surprise, there's crucifixion.
Which seems a little on the nose to me.
Surprise. And yeah, seems too obvious. And there's also flaying while your enemies are still alive, flay them.
Made me think of the Boltons in Game of Thrones.
If you're a Bolton fan. So they'd also dig a pit that's like, your belly button high, and you'd like lie in it with a stake in the ground, and then they fill that pit up with like boiling water.
Human soup.
Basically make you like a
person soup. One method is, I'm going to take this with a grain of salt because this doesn't make any sense to me, but one method was that she would be like, oh, I forgive you, and then have the person come and like kiss her shoes, but her shoes were laced in poison, and so they die. But I don't believe that one, because then wouldn't she get poison all over her?
But it sounds awfully clever.
It does sound clever, but I don't think it happened. Like, unless these people are like French kissing her shoes. Like, how is it going to kill them and not kill her from wearing the shoes?
Bitch, I'll make anybody kiss my shoes.
Oh, the one I hated the most is they'd handcuff a bunch of people together that were meant to be starved to death. And they would like just let them gradually starve to death. But like, let's say Frank and your starved to death handcuff chain dies before the rest of you. They don't come and like unhandcuff Frank. you just got to carry around Frank and his stinking
Dead.
body until you all starve to death. So that was my least favorite one. All right, I don't want to talk about torture anymore. Let's move on. And if all that talk about torture bothered you, please sign up for BetterHelp. That's HEL, BetterHelp.
Less murder, more.
Yeah.
So remember that son that she had, he didn't like any of this bullshit that was going on. And he was also a lot like his real dad.
So her son, Radama, he was very forward thinking. And he had made friends with this French businessman named Joseph Lambert, which in French, I guess it would be Lambert. Lambert. He was like, come to Madagascar, bring your money, and we'll overthrow my mom. The whole reason for him ending up in Madagascar was actually kind of clever. Ranavalona didn't want people coming in from other countries, but there was this woman who was an explorer who I would actually like to learn a lot more about.
Was her name Dora?
No, it was Ida Pfeiffer.
Close enough.
Yes. And I would love to learn more about Ida. I didn't get the chance in this research. But so Ida Pfeiffer was this like exploress that went all over the world. And then she went from country to country, kind of doing like these lectures about these tours that she had done and what she had discovered. So son Radama was like, she should come here and talk to everybody about what she explored. Our people will love it. And Ranavalona was like, yeah, that sounds fun. Like, sounds like a good time. Sounds like a bit of a party. Cool. And so while she was there, the man that was like supposedly like the manager of her tour, this Lambert guy, and her son try to stage a coup and overthrow her.
Yeah, that shit didn't go over so well with Mom.
They were caught.
Yeah. Ranavalona is like on husband number 3 now.
Yeah.
Like, what husband is she on? And so her current consort and prime minister was like, her current man was like Rangiari.
Yeah, Rangiari.
Yeah, and he was actually the son of her last consort and prime minister.
Which also backs up my theory that they didn't actually sleep together.
So he gets wind of what's happening and he like pumps the brakes on it.
Yes.
So, son and husband have a huge falling out now.
Yeah. Her son Radama, who's like 28 at this time, is like, Mom, oh my God, how are you still alive? Because at the latest suggestions, she's like 80. And at the younger suggestion, she's like 78. Like, she's old.
She's ancient.
For that time, yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily for the Frenchman and the Austrian explorer lady that kind of got roped into this whole thing, she let them live. And she let them go home pretty soon after. And she did not do anything to punish her son, which again makes me think, like, could she have really been this like evil lady if she didn't punish any of those people? Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
Right?
Like, I'm on this train. So all the conservatives wanted like Radama disinherited from everything.
But she was like, no, I'm not disinheriting my son. He's going to stay where he is. Her husband / minister was exiled for like his falling out with her son. And again, that just leads me to think that she obviously wasn't this like end all hard ass badass, like hate everyone woman that they paint her to be if she just forgave her son like so willingly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Queen Ranavalona lived a very long life, and she died
Yeah.
at the age of, we don't know for sure, but the official age is 83 in the palace, like in her sleep. And it makes me
Yeah.
think of Empress Wu a little bit, like somebody who's gone down in history in a negative light that was just let to like die of old age, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of the same thing with Empress Wu, where her legacy's kind of shady
great.
at best. Yeah, like people look at her like being like, she's this ruthless woman and she's so
Well,
horrible towards the Christians, and it's like, but wait, hold on. Like,
right.
bookmark.
Every record we have is from the white people. Her son immediately overturned all of her Make Madagascar Great Again rulings, and he converted to Christianity, which was a huge drama.
And I'm sure she rolled over in her grave a couple
Right.
times.
The tales of her tyrannical rule run rampant in Europe and throughout the world. Do I think she tortured some people? Yes. Do I think she was hella melodramatic? Also, yes. Do I think it's blown out of proportion? Yes. Her legacy in Madagascar is a really interesting deep dive if anybody ever wants to kind of research this. Most of the people in Madagascar view her as a villain, but there is like a group of people that view her as like a feminist icon who's just been shit upon. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I personally subscribe to that theory.
I feel like I am going to lump her in the category with Elizabeth Bathory.
Okay.
Where it's like,
Okay.
yeah, she was probably harsher than you and I would be. We probably wouldn't be friends with her. But was she as bad as everyone said? Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
No, I can. So, Queen's podcast.
Yeah. Official. Unendorsement.
Position.
So that's the complicated story of the super extra Ranavalona.
And we love extra in this house.
So cheers
Cheers,
bitches.
bitches.